To a large extent, when you're running a business, when people are giving funds or investing in that business, they are as much as they've done their permutations and everything, they are investing in the person. People give to people. They don't give to organizations. They Your board members should not be family and friends and all of that. Look at the people that will help forge, the people that have the time to show up for your meetings, the people that have the skills that you need and, are committed to your vision, to sit on your board. And then, myself at the time and my coordinators, and you need those volunteers, especially for a social business. You don't need to go and hire all of these people. You can get them in volunteers. There's a pool of people looking for how to give back to their communities. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. That's super helpful. Thanks a lot. Right. I know I have one or two friends who have, at one point or the other mentioned that they want to start something. I'm sure they will have this conversation. They'll find this conversation very, very, very helpful. Right. Let's talk a little about money. Is that okay? Let's talk a little about
Absolutely.
money. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I know that when I talk to entrepreneurs who are into for profit, right? Who are aspiring entrepreneurs, everybody talks about the funding challenge, the funding challenge, right? And I just want to kind of sense check with you. What was that like for you? Right? Setting up in Irede, right? Or raising the funds that you need to raise. Where do you look to raise these funds? And okay, I have some follow-up questions, but let's start with that. Why are you smiling?
Money matters. Money matters. Yes, funding at the time starting off was a challenge. I think funding as you grow, right? Even when you think that you have gotten the right revenue that you need per time, as you want to grow bigger, you still need money. So we're still needing money. But when we were starting, so in our own case, we call it funding, we call it revenue, and we call it donations. So because we are registered charity, um, and there are two kind of registrations that you can have for non-profits. You can be a limited uh, by guarantee, which is like a social enterprise, and they have more opportunities to do a little bit more, or you can be a charity or by trustees, which puts you in a place where most of your funding comes from donations. Donations in whatever way you want to look at it. Either people are directly giving as individuals or corporates are giving, or you're working on donor related projects and donors are giving for a certain cause, or it's government, whichever way you want to look at it. But like a large chunk of your money comes in through donations. And so for us, when we started, like I insinuated when I was talking about when I had that child I had to work with, most of our funds came in from friends and families. Um, and again, if you know me very well, I'm a people's person. So the huge funding that was crowd-funded came from friends and family. So if you are my friend, you will give and you will give me somebody to give. And that's how we started 2012, really 2015. The huge base of our funding came directly from individuals. And these individuals, friends and family. But what we did was year on year, we tried to retain the people that we had and get in new people. Um, and that kept us for the first 2, 3 years. And we started being accountable to those people. And yesterday, really, I told somebody, I said, and this is a business, and the person was telling me, oh, my funders, they're investing. I realized that they're investing. I said, they're investing in you. So to a large extent, when you're running a business, when people are giving funds or investing in that business, they are as much as they've done their permutations and everything, they are investing in the person. People give to people. They don't give to organizations. They so a lot of people gave because they knew Crystal, um, and the story is also compelling, and they think they want to be of that impact. And so that sustained us for the first 3 years. It helped us to build credibility because Kunle could then tell his friend Kayode and say, Kayode, you know what? I'm supporting this organization and they can be trusted. Again, one of the things that are lacking a lot when it comes to non-profit, especially in Nigeria, is in fact, I didn't mention this. Someone told me and said, you are running non-profit, you have hammered. That means you have made money. Yep. And and so when it comes to the credibility level of non-profits, it's one that a lot of people think that it's a place where people launder money, people do all sorts of things. So um, you need to build that credibility. And that first 3 years, our friends and our families helped us to build this. But we did not stop at that. We were also accountable, telling them what we did with the funds in terms of getting back to them on the children that had gotten limbs, how much money we raised. So our audited financial statement, for instance, is on our website. So you go there, you can see uh, from 2013 till 2023, it's all on the website. The impact reports are there. So you can really see what your money is doing. But then we were doing like regular newsletters and thank you letters to people to say this is what we did with the money. So that's how we got sustained in the first 3 years, really, friends and family. And then by the third year, we were now able to approach corporates and say, this is the work that we do. This is what we have done over the last 3 years. We have been able to work with two children have become 10, 10 now 16, and we want to scale. We want to be able to do more because this is the size of the prize. There are so many more children that need help. If you come and support us, we will be able to do more children. This will also happen to your business because people will see that you're supporting and helping. And again, ours is that impact story, not necessarily the bottom line. And as we start linking those, then we started seeing organizations that wanted to be a part of the work that we do. As soon as we got the first organization on board and had their buying to put their logos on our website and talk about them every time that we talk, then other organizations started feeling like, if this organization could give them money, that means they can be trusted. And so we started doing also the base of our corporate donors. By year 6 or so, we also realized that the work that we were doing was beyond the service of providing limbs. We wanted to go into advocacy. And so that's when we started writing for proposals for grants to get funded in the area of advocacy to drive the work to another level. Because there's so much limbs to give, right? Or keep giving. But there are thousands of children, and especially in a place like Nigeria where, there is war, um, in the northeast and all of that, and you think of the Boko Haram and the insurgencies and all of that. So you have a lot more children that are being amputated as a result. And so we knew that for us to reach these people beyond our just giving them limbs also, then we need to start advocating. Very quickly also, there were preventable amputations. And so we knew that we needed behavioral change to Nigerians to realize what they do to reduce the rate of amputation that are needless. And so that's how we started getting donor funding. At some point, the government came in, gave us some fund. They just realized, oh, there's this nonprofit that everybody is saying is good. Call us for a meeting, give some monies. But consistently, our funds go, from the individuals that give. So we crowdfund a lot. and then to the corporates, and now we are getting donor funds. And we are beginning to think of how to institutionalize some of those funds that we're not using in the immediate, so that it's taking care of children that will come along the way.
Wow. Wow, wow. I mean, Crystal, thanks a lot for sharing all of those. Two thoughts were just, kind of popping up in my head as you were sharing. Like, credibility is currency, reputation is cash.
Oh,
I mean, reputation is cash, credibility is currency, right? Because I mean, that is the story you've just told, right? Imagine if, and I keep saying this in, if some of the episodes, imagine that some of those friends and family, you've borrowed money from them before without returning it, or you've messed up your reputation with little things, right? What is the assurance that they will be willing to go out on a limb? Speaking of out on a limb, now they've
yeah.
gone out on a limb to.
You're absolutely right, Kunle. You're absolutely right. Just recently, I got a call and somebody called me and said, "Oh, we're doing this project." And when we got into the room to talk about the fact that I wanted to do this project, somebody mentioned your name and said, "You are the only one that can do this because you have consistently done this. So tell us about the work that you're doing." So
Hmm,
I think that we can't underplay it at all. That
hmm,
your reputation does matter.
hmm. And I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. And thanks for sharing all of that. I just hope that people who are starting out on a similar journey, like you, will take a cue from this, right? That the fact that you're starting in not for profit shouldn't be, don't just expect to get into it and then you hammer. It's not something you do to, you know to enrich yourself, so to say, because if you try to do that, you're going to ruin your credibility, right? And by doing that, you also, by extension, all the opportunities you could have afforded other people, right, is going to you're going to block that opportunity. So, it's a food for thought, actually. If I come back a little bit now, I know that you based on some of the things you've shared and some of the things I've seen, I know that you try to maintain a high level of transparency, right, and accountability, right? But there is that which is required by law, and there is that which is just good practice. Now, if you look at the size of your team today, right, and you have quite some people working with you, what percentage of your donations or the revenues that you generate do you think goes into actually giving limbs, and what percentage do you use to run like the administration, right? Because I'm sure the guys, that the organizations and the individuals that support you on this journey probably want to do more of giving the actual limbs versus paying for a fancy office.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So from the beginning, we had actually defined, and I don't know where I got that thing from, but we had defined that 80% of our revenue would go into um, projects and programs. And I'm not calling it just limbs now, because in 13 years, our programs have diversified from giving limbs to advocacy programs in schools to leadership program for young people. And then the balance 20% we use for everything else. So operations, a bit of marketing or communications, as you may want to call it. And now that we are doing research, also into research. So we strive consistently to ensure that we don't exceed the 20% that is for operations related purposes. So I would say that 80%, I mean, it has to be 80%, and then 20% to operations.
Okay. Wow. Wow. I mean, and for me, that's very healthy, right? Because it means that bulk of course, the operations have to be sustained, right? People have to do the work and all of that. But, a great chunk of what is coming in is actually coming in just for the sake of that, right? Directly into programs. And,
Absolutely.
that for me, that I think that's great, and it's a good learning point for people who are just starting out along that journey. All right, now let's begin to bring this to a little close, right? This is where we talk about what one of my managers used to call the mushy mushy stuff, right? But before we before we go into the mushy mushy stuff, right? Just a few questions around, you know, if you have to okay, so let's step back a little bit, right? Can we talk a little bit about your people and people processes, right? What you are doing to ensure that you're getting, the because I mean, working for a not for profit is not always like the easiest thing, right? Because you're not driving profit and all of that. Maybe they're not getting like fat bonuses and all of
And I'm
that.
driving fancy cars.
Well, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. you know, how do you ensure that the organization, you have a talent pipeline that is driven by what drives you, right? And what are you putting in place to ensure that at least for the future the organization is continue to be supplied with motivated and talented individuals, right, who will continue to maybe by the time you retire will be able to take the job forward from that point.
Thank you very much. I think that's the most evolving part of our business, because, like you rightly said, it's one of people having to ensure that they want to be in the place in the first instance. So initially, again, when we started, it was just, oh, I see somebody that is available, and this person kind of respects me enough and thinks that they like this work, and so that was how I got the first person that worked for me. But after about 3 years, after about 3 years, and she stayed with me for like a year and a half, really. So she stayed. And then somebody needed an intern, a copper at the time, and the copper was like, "Oh, please, I need a place." And so the copper came in as an intern and was working with my coordinator at the time. Then when my coordinator left, I had somebody else. And so by 2015, I knew that I needed to have a process in place to bring people in and out. So had a one-page document, the key things that we needed to have, somebody that is passionate first about children and work and non-profit and all of that. So we had that in place. And then we grew from a team of one and a half to two and a half, really, with the copper. And then the copper finished serving and left, and was just two of us for a bit, till I think about 6, 7 years after, when we felt like we needed a full team, and then so we expanded to about five, and then we did an expansion to we became 10 2 years ago, and all of that. But so I'll start talking from about 2 years ago. So we started trying to strategically say who should, and it's interesting because I'm telling the person, but I understand that I'm telling, the entire world, really, opportunities that are available and what they can do. Who is qualified to work in Irede Foundation? Who is the ideal Iradian, as we put it? What kind of person do we want to, what kind of remuneration is critical. In fact, 2 years ago, we did a lot of work on our pay. We did a survey, we benchmark versus other non-profits, that we feel like, we are par with those that are above us. What are some of the benefits? So we evolved from coming into the office every day to a hybrid system, and just started looking at sweet spots for people, on why they should, and selling to them the benefits of working within this environment, versus the for-profit environment, really. And the training became a huge part of what we did. One of the key things that we do in Irede, I think, is peculiar to us is also the fact that we set up a mentoring system for the staff. So staff, if you're working in finance, you will likely have a mentor that you can reach out to from time to time. And if you remember, I talked about this set of friends of Irede that are volunteers for us and they are highly placed people. So they are mentoring the people. So you're not necessarily missing much. So you have opportunity for training, you have opportunity for this, you have opportunity to have a mentor, someone that you're talking to, different from your manager to make this happen. And currently, we are in a place where, we are tidying up all of that, seeing all the kind of skills that we need to be able to hire for the or the Iranian of the future. Really, because it's not just about today. We have the people that can deliver the business today. But if we're looking at the kind of business we want to deliver in the next 5, 10, 20, 50 years, then there are other things that we clarify in terms of structure for people. So one of the key things, even though our HR is embedded today in our operation, is we're beginning to, you know, focus on people differently. How can we build people? One of the things also that I've learned is that it's been easier for us to build a team or build a person from scratch. So when people come in as coppers, as interns, as volunteers to work with us, they're staying for longer because most of the things that they're learning within the system. They're not bringing another culture. They're just joining us and learning how we're doing it. That has also been very helpful for us. So the key things that we're working on right now is just restructuring that and not looking at ourselves as a non-profit. So looking at ourselves as the business that we are, because I think when employees work for people, it's not necessarily I'm working for a non-profit. It is I work for an organization that I love, uh, and meeting my need at the same time. So this is now where we're doing some work to make sure that Irede is that choice that people are making when it comes to an employer.
Hey, thanks a lot for taking the time to watch the podcast. We are super thankful for you taking that time and investing the time to learn. We hope that you find the story inspiring, and beyond that, that you've been able to articulate one or two things that you want to do differently in your own entrepreneurial journey. May I encourage you to please like, subscribe, comment, and please share the word within your own circle of influence, especially within those that you think are on the same entrepreneurial journey with you. May I also encourage you to please, beyond subscribing to our YouTube channel, follow us on our other social media platforms. That means a lot to us, and we can see that that helps us to track that we're making some progress and so making some impact. Thanks a lot once again for taking the time to watch, and to see you on the next episode.